Well, it's hard to believe, but I've already got 635 miles on the first one. That's now my wife's scooter. We picked this one up the other day, and I've already got about 95 miles on it. I like to do the oil change, the first oil change on a new piece of equipment, new motorcycle, at 100 miles. And then these ones, these scooters, I'll change the oil every 500 miles. But we're going to go ahead and do the first oil change on my brand new scooter. I'll show you how that's done right now. First thing you're going to need is a 12 and a 17-inch wrench, a high-end oil pan, and your 12 and 17-inch wrench. Now if you come down here on the driver's side of the scooter, this is an ADV-160 right here in front of your rear kickstand. This is basically your filter. It's not really a filter, it's just a screen, and we'll take that out second. But first we'll take out the oil plug, which is this one right there, 12 millimeter. Now I have my bowl, my Tupperware, notched, right? So it sits right in there because we're high-end custom. Just take that loose. This literally, on these things, it literally takes, I don't know, I'm going to say 6 or 8 minutes and cost about $4 or $5. Look at that. Still pretty much crystal clear. Like I said, there's only 90 miles on here. Let that drain. I'll come back here in a second. One thing you might want to do is come over here on the passenger side. Your oil fill is right here. You might want to loosen that up a little bit. The oil might flow a little better. I don't know if it makes a difference or not. I usually do it. It's coming off anyway. Might as well loosen it up now. Alright, once that's all emptied, it's barely dripping at all. I like to let it drip a minute or two. Go ahead and put your drain plug back in. Get in there. Now this washer on top here, I don't know if you can see that or not. That's a crush washer, and they say you should change it every time you do this. But I've done many oil changes before. It's never been an issue. I do change it about every 3rd or 4th time. I usually buy 5 or 6 at a time, throw them in my bench. Clean all that off real good. We'll snug this down, and then we'll open this. I'll show you in a second, but it's literally just a screen in there to catch like big debris. If there's any kind of metal chunks or shavings or anything like that, this will catch it. So there's no actual oil filter, which makes this job really easy and cost effective. Now we'll just come down here. We'll slide the bowl over about 3 inches to be right underneath the screen. There. And we'll just unscrew this screen right here. I know it's hard to see, but like I said, this job literally takes somebody that doesn't know what they're doing less than 10 minutes and about, I don't know, $8 or $9 worth of oil. A little bit dribbles out, not much. All right, so you got to be careful when you take this apart. You have your cap. This is what I call this. This is the cap that you took off right here. You have the cap. I'll set that right here. You have an O-ring that, again, you should probably replace every time. It goes basically on the other side, but it goes on the cap. And then you have this little spring, right? This little spring, and the large end goes in, right? It goes in first, a large end. Set that right here, the rest of it. And then you have what's they call your filter. But again, it's just a little metal. But again, it's just this little metal screen right here. And I do have some gunk on it. We'll go in and look at it under the light. I don't know if you can see that, right? See this pieces of little shavings of metal? I mean, it's magnified pretty big on here. It's not really that big, but there are some little tiny pieces, fragments. What that's going to be is like, I forget what they call it, like slag from the castings, basically. But this is what it's designed to do, and it did what it's, like, see there on the end of my finger there. Here, let me see if I can put this down. See the little pieces of metal, plastic, a little teeny piece of plastic there, and a little piece of metal. That screen catches all of that. I basically just go run it under some soapy water, rinse it off really, really good, and then dry it off, and you just stick it right back in there. It goes in. That seal goes in first, just like this. Now, we can go ahead and reassemble this now that we've got it all cleaned out. I don't claim to know exactly what all is going on inside there, but you can see an inlet-outlet port. There's two little holes. There's one way in the back, and there's one up here in the front. But you take your screen now that it's clean, rubber end goes in first, like so. Just give it a little wiggle wiggle. It basically just seats in there. Then your spring, right, here we go. Again, it has a slightly bigger, I don't know if you can see that or not, slightly bigger on one end than the other. The big end goes in first right over top of your screen. So now all you have is just a little end of your screen showing right there, right? Just kind of leave it sit there. And then you got to put your O-ring, turn your, what I call the cap. Let's see, you put the O-ring right back on there, and then your cap goes on as well. And you can see inside there it's kind of domed. So as you're putting it on, if you just give it a little wiggle as you're putting it on, it'll make the screen and the spring and all that stuff sit, you know, the way it's supposed to as you tighten it down. You just give it a little wiggle as you're finding that first thread, right? And it gets everything wiggled right back into place where it was supposed to be. Then I use the world's best oil, T6 Rotella, full synthetic 10W30, 3.25-ish, 3.5 cups in my handy dandy custom measuring container.